Hello everyone, it is Linda Hayes coming to you with a video on property management in Belize. What I want to talk about are what the costs are like and how you can find someone you can trust. So first let's talk about what types of property managers you might have. So a long-term property manager is the first category that I'm going to talk about. And when you're looking for one of these people, typically what they'll provide are services like advertising your rental, screening the tenants, doing maintenance, inspections of the property, covering all the tenant requests, also doing financial reporting, so they should be sending detailed reports out to the owners, and making sure the property is rent ready. So that is what they would usually provide. Now, in my case, for my rental properties in Canada, in Edmonton, I don't actually use a property manager myself. I am able to do this. I have a lot of automation for different things. I post ads myself. I'm an accountant, so I can do all the financial reporting, and so I'm not using anyone. But I still want to talk about what the fees are like in Canada and similarly what you might see in the US, and then compare it to what it's like in Belize. So now let's talk about the fees for long-term property management. So it's typically 10% in places that I'm familiar with. So I'm part of a few real estate groups in Edmonton, and 10% is common. And I have some friends in the US that say they have similar experience. Now in Belize, it is a lot higher, usually around 15%. And that's because the property does need more maintenance, and even the case when it's vacant. So sometimes they have a property fee for vacant properties. For example, in Mahogany Bay Village, their rental agreement says it's $300 US if the property is vacant. There is a lot of maintenance that needs to be done because of the humidity and the salt air. And even my property manager is saying they might implement a fee for vacant properties as well. So just don't be surprised that it is quite a bit different. So not only do you need more maintenance, but in Belize it is a lot harder to hire reliable workers. I've had lots of people I've tried to get to do work that just don't show up on time. They say they're going to come one day, they don't. And so this is stuff that the property manager has to deal with all the time. So now let's talk about short-term property management. So there is a lot more work with short-term rental management. And basically the property manager has to do all the services that they do for long-term, but a whole bunch of other things. So the first thing is to set up the property on the appropriate booking platforms. So most people will set their property up initially on Airbnb, but you can also put it on VRBO, Booking.com. In my case, I do all of those. Plus, I have a direct booking website so that repeat guests go through my direct booking site, which saves a lot of money because Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, they all have commissions associated with them and they can be very high. Another thing is to ensure the nightly rates are appropriate. If you have a fixed fee for your property, it's likely not going to make as much money as it could otherwise. So in busy season, the rates should be a lot higher than in slow season. So for example, in Belize, if the property was run correctly, you would expect that during Christmas and New Year's would probably be some of the highest rates, and in September and October it would be some of the lowest rates. And if you go look at the Hilton Hotel, for example, you will see that the hotel does that as they should. And Airbnb and VRBO properties can do the same thing if you use the proper software. The next thing that you have to look at is the property manager is going to be hiring and paying cleaners. Now, cleaners, I had a hard enough time finding good ones in Edmonton, where there's tons of different cleaning companies. I went through many different ones. I finally have one now, but it's still an ongoing process of making sure things are done right, because reviews when you're on short-term platforms are critical to get bookings. You also have to have people to do landscaping and pool maintenance. And I did hire someone initially for pool maintenance that I still have today in Mahogany Bay, but the landscaper that I initially had really didn't turn out well at all. And luckily my pool maintenance guy is now doing the landscaping as well. But even for paying these people, they only take cash payments. So that is something that is a lot more work, and they might take it through the bank account, but if you're not in the country, this is something that's a lot harder to do in Belize. The other thing that needs to be done is appropriate guest management and communication. So you have to make sure the guests can get in, check into the proper property appropriately. So do they have keypads? Do they meet the guests on site? Do they provide directions to get to the property? Every place has different types of things you need to do. And so this is a lot of the reason that short-term property management is a lot more expensive. So now let's talk about short-term rental management fees. So the rates are going to depend on what's included and what is extra. So some companies seem to have a really low base fee. So one agreement I saw was 15%. But the problem with that is that means something's missing. And that is because a lot of these companies have really high markups on everything else. So they could charge everything to the owner, of course, like the things like the cleaning supplies, the booking commission, maintenance workers, cleaners, paying bills, everything like that. But instead of charging the actual cost and giving invoices, they will mark it up. So my property manager told me of situations where people were being charged triple the amount of what the actual cost of something was. So if you see a really low base fee for short-term property management, you should really be questioning what you're getting for that fee. My property manager does charge 35% for short-term rental management and often includes many things that other people do not. So don't just compare percentages, make sure you see exactly what's included before you sign an agreement. So I picked my property manager based on reviews from many people that I have known in the country where they have lots of good feedback, which is really important. So as I mentioned, you want to go by referrals when you're looking for a property manager. So in Edmonton, it's easy for me to do this if I wanted one because I'm part of a lot of real estate groups. So I can ask other people that own property who they're using and find out what they think of them. But in Belize, I tried to do the same thing, but it was a bit different. So here, you ask people you know. You might ask a particular realtor you know or somebody you've met through someone else, hey, who's good? And later on, I realized that sometimes it seems that people are referring people just based on commission they'll get from the referral versus actually having used the service. So I have two different situations where I had a referral that really didn't go well, and later on I found out that there are referral commissions paid, and I think that was the reason I got that particular referral. So now what I do whenever I'm looking for somebody appropriate is I talk to many different people that I trust and make sure that the reputation of the person I'm going to use or recommend is actually what it seems to be. So there's a couple of realtors I really like in San Pedro, and they know property managers. So before I actually hired mine, I reached out to make sure there was nothing negative that I could find because that is a huge thing. If I had done that for another person I had hired and asked some of the people I trusted, I would have found out very quickly that the referrals I got were not appropriate. So that is just something that's a little different. And living there for over a year definitely helped me find different people to use. And definitely is not easy if you're not going to go around and ask people questions. I am very extroverted, and everyone I meet, I try to ask as many questions as I can. And that's why I actually started doing videos because I found it so hard to find appropriate information. So another important service to get if you have property in Belize that you want to do short-term rentals is the paperwork to become a licensed short-term rental provider, which is exactly the same as you would do if you're starting a hotel. So there's a lot of people that do this service, and I have a video on some of the stuff that is involved, and you'll see how much work it is. And I put the link to the video here so that you can actually go into that particular video. I also do have other videos on short-term rental automation, so talking about the pricing software, all those kind of things as well. So if you are looking for any other information, please reach out because if it's something I haven't done, I'd be happy to do another video. And if you're looking for a property manager, send me an email. And also do that if you're looking for a property. So finally, I put a few of the QR codes for some of my YouTube playlists if you're looking at investing in Belize. And if you are coming to visit Belize, I'd be happy to show you around.